Recently, there's been a rumor, I was going to say rumors, there's really only one, about the cancellation of the Orville, even before its third season debuts on Hulu. But the rumor concerns there will be no fourth season, as it's already decided to scrap the show. Yeah. Well, this rumor came from a writer for Cinema Spot by the name of Imre Kaya, I believe. And he cited an unnamed source. Yeah, that's it. They're going to go ahead and roll out season 3, of course, but that's it after that. The thing about rumors, and of course, admittedly, for sites like Cinema Spot and the rest, these entertainment sites, that's the bread and butter of sites like that, and you try to get sources and whatnot. But the presentation of a rumor suggests that it may not be true. You don't know, so then you kind of, you might want to expand on it and look to what might lend credibility to it, some other stories that you can substantiate that helps it and that sort of thing. But all in all, until you know for sure, you're not quite sure. So you presented it, look, it's what I was told, and that's that. Well, no, he seemed to produce it like this was a done deal. So a producer for Orville, Tom Constantino, responded. And he said on Twitter, we can barely figure out how to get back to work. Wouldn't worry about 2021 or 22. So his response here is not that season 4 has been canceled. It's that no decision has been made yet. But primarily with a show like Orville, its third season hasn't been viewed yet. So what would the numbers be for Hulu as it came out? And by the way, the numbers on Hulu wouldn't have to be as big as they would have to be on a broadcast network. So it's got a good chance. So that's his response there. This would stipulate that the rumor is untrue, but at the same time, yeah, at some point, let's say Orville bombs, and it's like, well, we're done with that. And then there wouldn't be a fourth season. But at this point, there's no reason to believe that any kind of final decision has been made on that or that it's even been considered. And, of course, what you can consider is this bizarre year with the outbreak and everything. Everything's in lockdown. And so a lot of things are kind of static for the moment. You don't know what to do. This is he's pretty much undercutting the story here. And he should know, right? I mean, he's a producer on this show. So does it fully shut the door on it with this tweet? No, not exactly. But then, well, he did add that a friend of his suggested the old Dewey defeats Truman image, where, of course, the experts at the time, I should tell you something, believed that Dewey would defeat Truman and be the next president, and Truman would go in defeat. Well, no, it didn't turn out that way. Truman won, and Dewey is lost to history, only for this scene. So there you go. That was a response. Now he says, I'm crawling back under my rock, dear friends. But you know how it goes. People want more clarification and whatnot. So this guy chimes in and says, okay, my interpretation is that while there may be some truth to it, see, that's because that's the way rumors go, He says, the headline is wrong, but you can't explain why yet. Smiley face me if I'm warm. And he says, no truth, don't worry. So, boy, that's pretty final. So, in other words, there's been nothing on a season 4. You can take it from that. Or maybe there has been, because there's going to be one. I know they announce, even before shows debut, new seasons and that sort of thing, because they're so confident in it and whatnot. Or they're trying to manipulate you into being excited about their show. There's another sci-fi show that does this a lot. So many announcements of films and TV series, and really no evidence that maybe only one of them will come, or maybe two at this point, will come to fruition. But yeah, that's another story. So anyway, well, there you go. It looks like from a producer on the show, there's no truth to Orville is basically canceled. You'll see the third season and that's it. So that should shut the whole thing down, right? Well, Kyle wasn't going to let that go. So this Kaya guy responds to this as, I like, every time someone does it, no you don't. I like how a producer on the Orville said my scoop, your scoop, huh? About the show ending after season 3 is not true. But they admitted in the same thread that they do not know if season 4 is happening. Okay. No, he did say no truth to it. That's one thing there. But you don't know. You have this unnamed source who claims this. You don't really know much about any of it. To go with this, and he doesn't even know if it's happening or not. You know, that's right. Because season 3 could go very badly, and there wouldn't be one. But he's not Nostradamus. But I guess you have a crystal ball. Is that your source? You know, right off the bat with a response like this, it's not. But maybe it just stops right there. Oh, and isn't the little GIF of the Orville character? Is that? Yeah, no. Even if we assume my inside info is false, so here. Like, hey, maybe it isn't. So let me explain why it's still true while being false. There's just too much against the Orville for it to get a 4th season. Oh, is it? Yeah. Nobody likes this show, right? No. You're mistaking it with another show. If they really didn't plan to end it like my article states, we're definitely getting an open ending. Probably a cliffhanger, too. So... your source on this idea is, well, I think we know. Okay, so, you know, even if it's false, it's true. So that's his prediction for season 3 at this point, I suppose. So then he comes in again, unless an executive producer. So see, Constantino, he's not good enough. He's just a producer, you know. This is above his pay grade, buddy. So unless an executive producer, production coordinator, or maybe a writer. So he's requiring 3 witnesses, I guess, 3 witnesses to verify. That's the only way. Otherwise, you're not good enough for his notice. So 3 witnesses to say his article is false. I recommend not believing it. So there you go. See, Constantino. He's calling Constantino a liar here. Or maybe just wrong. Yeah. Even then, they have literally 0 reason to tell us the truth. Well, sooner or later, people are going to notice there isn't a 4th season. So, at some point, no, they're going to tell you. So then he comes in with this because, you know, you got it. Like I said, when you report on rumors, you're admittedly in delving into speculation. At some point, you're saying, well, this guy told me this. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. He's doubling down like it's the gospel, you know. But when you're dealing with rumors, yeah, you look to other stories and stuff that seem to correspond with it to lend it some credibility. Otherwise, why bother? So here he refers to this. Fox Studios has literally put out all of the Orville sound stages up as available on their website. You don't do this if you're planning on continuing the show. Well, you go to the link and it doesn't say anything about Orville. It's just not a part of it. So he's just assuming that and let's say, you know, that they'll have to move to another soundstage or whatnot, which I don't think so. But the props themselves would just go into storage. They wouldn't be, you know, sold. If he's got any evidence they've been sold off, did someone buy them at auction? It doesn't list any of that. So, yeah, that doesn't really work. But we put a link, so there you go. You go to it, it shows you the picture of the soundstage and the tank. They got a tank, or they had. I don't know. Anyway, but nothing there that definitively says that's it for Orville. So then he claims they never intended to make a 4th season. It has always supposed. He didn't write this very well. It was supposed to end after season 3. Seth MacFarlane signed a new output deal with NBC Universal, and I don't think he'll have time for the Orville. All right. One thing is not true here. He doesn't provide any source on that there was anybody involved with the show who said we're doing a season 3 and that's it. You know, to be like classic Star Trek that only got 3 seasons. Yeah. And now another one will too. Seth MacFarlane signed the deal with NBC. That's true. He did. And Hollywood Reporter goes on about this, and they go into detail and stipulate that he's allowed to continue with his other shows. And they say there's 3 other shows that he's working on. And gee, what are the 3 shows? Well, there's a Family Guy, of course. Yeah, that one. And then American Dad, the other animated. And then what's the other one? Oh, right, the Orville. So yeah, he's going to be developing other shows. That doesn't mean he'll be completely involved with those as well, depending on what they are. He wants to do a musical, a political show, well, and then a historical anthology or something like that. Yeah, just because he produces doesn't mean that it takes up all his time so that he can't do voice work for Family Guy and American Dad and appear in the Orville. And of course, the Orville is an episodic show, you know, like the show that inspired it. And sometimes you don't need to have Captain Mercer on the episode. It can involve other characters. So there's wiggle room there for him to do these other shows for his deal with NBC. And it also mentioned that he might want to develop shows for Sci-Fi Channel. Oh, well. I wonder what he could put on there if this Hulu deal doesn't work out. Now, see, unlike Kaya here, I will not say that is definitely what's happening, because I don't know. I just pulled that out of thin air. So, but hey, you know, why not? It's a possibility, you know. But yeah. So that's that. This idea that this proves there can't be any more Orville. No, it doesn't. So then he goes in, the Orville doesn't make sense. Lot of money and was mostly made to please Seth to keep him at Fox. The Orville isn't on Fox anymore, and Seth has signed a deal with the competition. So why keep the Orville around? It doesn't make sense for both parties. Well, there's 2 other shows you just failed to mention. They're gonna keep running those. Disney bought Fox, and along with that, the deal for Orville to appear on Hulu, which they now own. So, at the moment, boy, do you need content for your streaming services. So that seems less likely that they would give it the boot. But this argument doesn't hold water, as per the Hollywood Reporter deal on his NBC Universal contract, which was pretty lucrative for him. I think it was like $200 million, I think, something like that. Wow. Anyway, it already allows for him to continue with his other shows done under his production company, what was it, Fuzzy Door? So there you go. But he's not through yet. Unless the Orville third season somehow performs insanely well, better than ever before. There's no reason to make a 4th season. Well, that's true of every show. Every now and then there's a show. I remember back when Fringe just didn't have the ratings, even though that was a very good show. But Fox went ahead and allowed for a final season to wrap it up when it probably would have been canceled before that, and they quickly put together a final season that tied up the story. So sometimes that does happen with wanting to make good with people within the business and that sort of thing. And so there's truth to that. But here he's saying, if the show performs good, they'll make them. Yes, that is the reason you continue the show. But then he's still holding that the sets have all been destroyed. He doesn't really prove it. And says, well, they'll have to rebuild the sets and everything. But again, didn't really prove that. So yeah, that's really kind of sad, isn't it? Boy, he just doesn't really like the show. And when you want something to be true, it certainly influences your output here for discussion. And you got to be careful of that. And to maintain it's a rumor I've heard. That's all he had to do. Is what I heard. If it's not true, it's not true. But here, this is not a guy to go to for information. He may have come into some scoops that were true, but this type of attitude and approach to this is pretty sorry. And it's probably, I went to look at his Twitter feed, and he's got some Star Trek Discovery mentions there and stuff like that, and seen some pics from the next season and stuff. So that's the show he's really rooting for, perhaps, and just has all this nastiness towards Orville, which is infinitely a superior show and knows how to do Star Trek stories. And unfortunately, that's where you go when these franchises continue to destroy themselves, is that you got to go to something else that's inspired by it. Orville goes the parody route because otherwise they'd be sued. So it has to be a comedy. But even as that, this could have been Star Trek Orville, about this misfit crew, and you had an actual Star Trek comedy. That could have worked. I don't know if that's what he intended when he tried to produce a Star Trek show, and he all pitched an idea to them and all that, and they rejected him and whatnot. But if he had been the showrunner of Star Trek, I think it would have been a phenomenal success. I don't know that even a successful Star Trek show would be enough to carry a CBS All Access streaming service, but the show in and of itself, the brand, would be strong and could grow out of that. But unfortunately, that is not the case, as it is in the hands of people who just don't even seem to really like the show at all. And but the war continues of people who the brand name alone is enough, and their loyalty to it, I guess, and perhaps that's the case here. I don't know. But rumor from the get-go is that leaves open the possibility that, yeah, it's wrong. It's not true. And that should be understood. A lot of people scream and holler just by the very mention of it. But when you're the one approaching it, you have to accept that reality. And he just really doesn't. And even says, even if it's untrue, it's true. Yeah, come on. He just doesn't really like the show. So anyway, there you go. Looks to be, of course, season 3 will debut on Hulu. Can't wait. And if it does well, yeah, there'll be a season 4. As for any discussion already, it's canceled. That appears to be untrue.
All right. Thank you for watching and listening. Why not like and subscribe, and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores and have plenty of goodies for you. Hats, mugs, stickers, posters, all that goody stuff. Plus, you can head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book Night Night. Oh, yeah. Plus, you can also catch my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, over at RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on my channel at BitChute. That's the Mr Nailsin channel on BitChute.com.